Hi everyone, welcome to the TriEssence martial art channel. Now, last week I've uploaded a 2-part video on how to self-defense with Kung Fu. And of course that was a clickbait title to get people click it. And instead of teaching you how to self-defense with Kung Fu, I shared my opinion on the fact that instead of trying to train for self-defense, you should train to fight better. And in doing so, you have less of an issue when you are trying to defend yourself. Now, there are some positive feedbacks, and there are also someone who posted a long comment on the fact that I have not been exposed to real self-defense training, and therefore I don't know what I'm saying. Right, now that sounds like a hippie talk. Okay, the fact that you don't know because you haven't been exposed to this and that. Obviously, that person is not important enough for me to respond to that. Well, I don't even respond in the message, in the comments, because for me, I don't really care what he thinks. But his comment does remind me that there are certain aspects of this topic that I haven't yet covered, which is why I'm now making a part 3, a follow-up to the previous 2-part video on my thought about martial art and self-defense. So first of all, we have to try to define what exactly is a self-defense expert. I mean, if I haven't been exposed to proper self-defense training, well, what is proper self-defense training? Who are qualified to give a proper self-defense training? I mean, there are no official body in this world that tell you you are qualified or you are not qualified, right? This isn't like medical, psychiatry, lawyer, where there is a governing body that says whether you're qualified to be a practice of that discipline or not. So often, the answer will be that so-and-so is a law enforcement officer or a retired law enforcement officer, some who work in correctional service, some retired from Navy SEAL, etc., etc. And that often gives people the sense of qualification, like, yeah, he's been a law enforcement officer, he's been dealing with criminals all his life, therefore he's qualified. However, if you really examine this notion, law enforcement, not that I disrespect any law enforcement people, I have my utmost respect for those people and their service to every country in the world, right? They do a stellar job by keeping the innocent people safe. But if you really look into the nature of their work, it is not exactly the same as self-defense. I mean, sure, they do deal with criminals and dangerous situations all the time, but it's not the same as self-defense, right? Self-defense is basically like me or him walking on the street in the light, and then the criminal are in the shade or in the shadow, or they are hiding, not literally but figuratively speaking, and they are snooping around and checking you out, right? You are the victim, they are the predator, and they will find a suitable time, opportunity to jump and attack you. So that is the social relationship between a victim and a criminal. However, if you look at the law enforcement officer, they are actually the role changer. They are actually the predator, right? When they are deployed to a situation, they are going after these criminals. So they're actually on the hunt, not these criminals. So while you can say they have a lot of experience in dealing with criminals, it's from a different social dynamic. They're actually not self-defending. They are just doing their job as a police officer or military personnel. And although you might think a conflict is a conflict, but if you're talking about experience on self-defense, I would argue that they have not a lot. They have a lot of experience in violent conflict maybe, but that's not the same as self-defense, all right? And furthermore, if you really look at how police officers work, they work in partners, right? They very seldomly, if ever, go with a single person. But when you are attacked on the street or wherever, you are most likely by yourself. Right? Criminals suddenly attack when they're friends together. So, again, that's very different, right? Police always goes in pairs, and if they have a bigger situation, they will send a whole squad. They will send a SWAT team. They will have tactical units who look after each other's back. So the experience on the situation actually is very different from a civilian perspective. Furthermore, they are armed with guns and batons and tasers and all kinds of other weapons, which you may or may not have. So of course, if you own a gun and you wish to self-defend yourself with a gun, then yes, by all means, go to a shooting range, do tactical gun shooting training, all of that, it helps. But if you're trying to learn how to self-defend with your hands, then I would argue, being a law enforcement officer or an ex-military personnel doesn't exactly give you the qualification. Now, this is not to say that all law enforcement officers or military personnel are not qualified. What I'm saying is just the fact that someone has background in this field doesn't automatically qualify them to be a self-defense expert. Next, we have to look at what makes you a self-defense expert. Well, you have to be experienced enough in self-defense situation, meaning you must be able, you must have experienced the fact that you walk down the street and people attack you and you survive them a lot of times to be an expert. For example, in traditional martial arts, right, people don't really talk about this, but strictly speaking from old classical, old school requirement, you have to be at least in 250 fights to be qualified, experienced enough in combat. Whether it is sparring between, Kung Fu brothers, challenging people outside, fighting on the street, it doesn't matter. But minimum is 250 fights before you are qualified, that you are experienced enough in fighting and be able to handle all kind of situation that happens to you. Now, are there people who's been through at least 100 self-defense situations, violent altercation on the street in a self-defense way, not in a law enforcement way? I think not. At least the majority of them are not. So, in a sense, no one is actually a self-defense expert, per se, okay? And this whole phrase, or this whole title is moot. It is a lie. Again, that's not to say that all these self-defense instructors are worthless. But we can't just naturally give them qualifications because they have background in law enforcement. Yes, you want to add in this scenario? I mean, you're like a good guy, but you don't get into street application. So it's okay if you don't have anything to add.
Yeah. Well, basically, I guess the way that I see it is that when you're carrying a badge or when you're in a uniform, military or not, or police uniform, the situation changes. People see you, you're part of the team or the circle, so they treat you differently. Their mindsets are different, and for example, if I have to deal with a cop, and if you put the same person in civilian clothes, my attitude changes as well. So I guess that's what Chris is trying to say.
Yes, that's a very good point. And and furthermore, when a cop is deployed into a situation, he knows that there are criminals in this facility and they're on alert. Self-defense is when you're walking down the street and you're not expecting people to attack and they attack you. Of course, someone would argue you need to be aware of an attack all the time. But the reality is, unless you are happy or you're naturally born to be paranoid, you can't be like that all the time. Even cops are not like that all the time. Right? They're only alert on duty. When they're off duty, they are not alert. And those who are alert all the time have psychological problems, and they often go to see a shrink because someone like PTSD. And that's actually not a healthy thing. So don't think that just because someone's a cop that he's alert all the time, right? And when they do, it's actually not a very healthy mental state. So again, it's not to say anything bad about law enforcement people, just to make you realize that law enforcement and self-defense, although both deal with violent situations, they are not exactly the same nature. Right, next we're going to look at some of the details this person said. So the first thing he said is that, in self-defense, proper self-defense training, you learn to fight with the aim to escape or control. So let's first look at escape. Yes, it is true to some extent that you want to escape a violent situation as fast as possible. But you have to also realize that this is often not possible. Now, of course, if I have an altercation with him in a narrow alley, and I know there's a main street, and a lot of people in the main street, if I get 5 steps over there, he wouldn't attack me anymore. In that situation, then yes, if I can do whatever to delay him and I run there, I'll be safe. But if you're walking in the night, or in a less populated area of the city, and you know that 100 meters down the line, there's no one that's able to help you, how is escaping gonna help? Okay, it doesn't. So while escaping a situation, the intention to escape a dangerous situation is correct. You can only do so with certainty if you are the superior party in the conflict, right? If I'm better than him as a fighter, I have the advantage, I knock him on the head and he stays, then I have a better opportunity to escape. Then he's actually better than me, both physically and mentally, he's more determined. And I can overpower him and he's hitting me and I'm going down. How are you going to escape? Right? It's futile to learn to escape like that. So while escape is the correct aim, it is not actually the most important part of the training to be the superior fighter, which goes back to the same point that I had in my previous videos, right? Don't learn to self-defense, learn to be the better fighter. If I'm superior than him, right, he comes to me on the street, maybe with a knife or whatever, not that I'm suggesting that you should, empty hand deal with someone with a knife, but that's just an example that he put a knife in my wallet. If that moment I could probably grab the hand by surprise, and punch him right in the jaw, and he dazes off, I have a better opportunity to run. But if I couldn't do that punch to his face, instead I'm like, trying to push him off and run, he's still gonna chase up to me and stab me, right? Obviously, if you run 10K every morning and you're confident on your ability to outrun the guy, then maybe it will work. But for the rest of us, it probably isn't going to work. I live in South Africa, right? And I haven't been chased, but I have chased after criminals quite a few times when they try to jump into my fence, when they try to break into my house. I usually attack them, then they run, I chase them. And I have to tell you from experience, I can't match their speed, right? They run very fast. I have no chance of catching up to them. Now, if the roles are reversed and they are chasing me, I will have no chance of escaping them. So when you try to run away like that, all it will happen is that you will be worn out, you will be out of air, wounded, and the guy will still chase up to you and do whatever he wants to you. And in those scenarios, you rather have reserve the stamina to fight him up front and have the edge. And to do that, quite simply, you have to be the better fighter. Anything you want to add here?
No.
Have you ever chased people before?
No, not chasing. No,
You need to live your life more.
Yeah. Yeah, chasing chicks, yes. Look, I mean, the thing is, no, I haven't chased people. I don't recommend you just go ahead and chase people on the street. Or being chased. Chase or not chase, it really doesn't matter. Chasing is not a normal thing to do. But I've been actively involved with events like Park Run. For those of you who knows, Park Run is basically a bunch. It originated from UK. It's a bunch of people every single Saturday they run 5Ks, and I can tell for sure that I'm one of the last 1% of the guys that hit that finish line. So the chances of me meeting a person that are on the street which I can outrun or outpace is very, very slim. So turning around and also when you're turning around running, your eyes are off your target. You don't know what the guy is doing behind you. Maybe he decides to throw the knife or something. It's better to know what he's doing. In that case, you can react to it. So turning around and running, it might not be the best strategy, unless you can run into a crowd or outmaneuver him. But still, there is a risk involved in running as well.
So again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't escape a situation, but you have to be the superior fighter to be able to escape with confidence. Okay. So rather focus on learn how to escape, learn how to fight. So if we're having an altercation and I'm winning this fight, I can choose when to stop this fight and run because he's the one that had to follow my pace because I'm winning. If I'm losing, it's up to his mercy. I don't have a say in this conflict. And often I'll tell my students that you have to judge the situation, right? If you know that he's going to have, or you suspect he's going to have friends going to come at any minute, yes, you want to hit him as hard as you can, then get out of there. But if you assume that he's a single man who's trying to mug you or something, then why run? If I have the opportunity to club him in the face, he's gonna be dazed, right? If he's not flat out, knocked out, hit him some more, right? You need to maximize the advantage you have. If I hit him and he dazed, and I try to run, maybe after 2 seconds he recover, and he will chase after me with a knife and stab me to death. Right? That's what happens in movies, right? You always see the protagonist will surprise the assailant around the corner by pushing to something or trip him, and then they will run. And what happens? The assailant get up and chase after them. It never ends. But if I'm able to daze him with a punch, if I can maximize that advantage by keep punching him, out while he's on the wall, knee him in the face, put him down on the ground, kick him in the guts, to a point where he doesn't get up anymore, then leave. It's much safer. So I tell my students that unless they suspect there's going to be something someone else joining the conflict, or you know that situation is very, very dangerous to be there, rather finish the fight if you have the advantage. But if you don't have the advantage, running doesn't help either. So again, be the better fighter. And I will even go as far as saying that once he's on the ground and not moving anymore, search him. Throw away his car key if he has it, take away his knife. If he has a gun, obviously take it. Throw the stuff. Take the bullets, throw the gun in the garbage bin. Makes it a lot difficult for him. So even if he does recover, you need to look for his wallet. Take his wallet. Why not? You have to look for his keys. Makes it difficult for him that he doesn't chase after you, right? Don't just punch him and run. That is stupid. Again, not saying that escaping isn't important, but you have to judge that by situation. Next, fighting with an aim to control. I don't know what he means by control, but I would think anyone who's been to that fight would know that fighting is chaotic. There are no control. If anyone who thinks that they can control a fight, they just haven't been to enough fights to know what they're talking about. What you can do is win the fight. Don't try to control the fight. You can't control an opponent. Okay? What I tell my student is, you aim to hurt him as much as you can. You aim to drop him, to even kill him. Obviously, you probably can't kill him, so you just try to go out. Don't hold back. Don't control. Don't try to control him and seize him or stuff like that. It doesn't work. Hurt him, punch him, drop him, kick him some more, and then leave. Once you feel that he can no longer be a threat. Don't aim to control. Control is useless. Okay, it doesn't actually serve you. And again, be the better fighter, right? We're always going to come to that same point, be the better fighter. The next thing that the guy talks about is that, the ability, they teach you how to read social cues so you know when something's going to become a violent situation. And to that, I would say, well, if you're talking about, we're walking on the street, I step on his toe, and he's like, what's wrong with you? Yo, I'm sorry, man, I didn't see your foot. Let me pay for your shoe polish. It's like, when that happens, he's upset, right? So you can pick up that cue. He's escalating. Or if I'm in a bar and I'm eyeing his girlfriend and he gave me the stare and he get up and walk to me, you can read that cue and know that you pissed somebody off. And these things you don't need training for. You don't have to go to a special self-defense course to learn to read these cues, right? As long as you have some decent social skill, you should pick these social cues up from high school, from primary school, from varsity, from going to party, from hanging out with friends, from going out to drink, right? Unless you are completely disabled and lack social skill, you should need someone else to teach you how to read these social cues. When somebody is upset with you, you will know. And if you talk about social cue, in the fact that, the angle that he's posturing his body, the angle that he tilts his head, the macro expression on his face, I deduce that he's going to attack me. Well, sorry to tell you, this isn't Sherlock Holmes and this isn't lie to me, okay? There are no such thing as reading these macro little hint to deduce whether a guy's going to attack you. It doesn't work like that. And even if it does, which I doubt it does, those abilities are only certain super high, well-trained specialists can do, like CIA maybe, the analyst. It's not something that a common person go to a seminar and learn. So the social cues that does work are the common ones that you're supposed to know already. The ones that doesn't work, you can't learn anyway. So the whole fact that self-defense courses tell you that they can teach you to read social cue, personally I would say is more a marketing scheme, right? Is to make you think like you're learning something different to martial art, but in actual fact, it's not as useful as you might think. And let's look at criminals, okay? I mean, these examples are people just like me. We're walking on the street, I step on his toe. We're in a bar, I eye his girlfriend the wrong way. Whatever it is, these are common people with common people. A criminal are not going to give you a cue. A criminal don't come to you and show you that he's going to attack you, right? Most of the time, they will even jump from behind you, from the side. They will try to surprise you. They try to have the drop on you. That's what criminals do. So if you think you can read the cue to see when a criminal is going to attack you, well, you have another thing coming. Right? Criminals, the whole point of criminals is to not give you a hint or a cue. They try to surprise you. For example, there was for a while there were some cases where a guy will walk up to you and say, "Hey man, what's the time?" And when you look at your watch, they will pull out a knife and try to mug you. Right? They try to take your attention away from looking at your watch. For example. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna punch everyone who asks you for the time? you can't do that, right? I mean, unless you're already a sociopath or antisocial person. It's just simply not possible. Even if you know how certain criminal get away with the kind of criminal activity, you can't just, every time somebody asks you time, you punch me in the face. It's not practical. Which again is the difference between law enforcement officer and a civilian, right? Because they are sent on, when they're deployed, they already have a target. They are criminal in the vicinity and they're gonna find them. You can't walk around every day expecting everyone to be criminals. I mean, you can, but it's gonna have negative effect on your psychic and mental health. So the point is, criminals often don't give you cue. In which case, the best defense is to have the correct reflex. Is when you're not expecting a criminal, and when they attack you, you have a natural response that you develop that you can punch them and deal with the situation and come on top. And this type of response comes from a lot of fights. A lot of whether it's sparring, whether it's real fighting, competition fighting. I mean, don't ever look down on people that's competition fight, because they've done way more fights than you and me and these so-called self-defense experts, right? A professional fighter must have done maybe 50 up to 200, 300 fights in his life, professionally, and then you don't count the amateur ones and the sparring ones. So they're way more trained to deal with any violent confrontation. When somebody makes a move to them, their body naturally knows what to do. And that's something that's way more valuable than reading social cue and predict that someone's going to escalate an attack. In fact, these guys don't even have to worry about that because they are confident enough that when you make a move, they'll punch you first. It's as simple as that. Now, there are people out there who says, this professional fighter got stabbed and that professional fighter got killed on the street. Yes, there are situations like that. But what you need to realize is, if those situations were given to any other so-called self-defense expert, chances are they're going to be dead too, right? I mean, I've heard people who argue, in the street, they don't come at you like this. Fair enough. Instead, they're going to, you are walking, they're going to come behind you and hit you on the head with a brick. Well, you know what the truth is? No one can deal with that. Okay, no one can deal with someone coming behind them and hit them on the head with a brick. It's beyond human capability. Okay, I don't believe any of those self-defense experts can deal with this too, unless they already know that it's coming, but they can't. Okay, unless of course you're like that 10-stand Katsumi ninjutsu master who believes he can sit down and read somebody throwing a katana at him from behind. But of course, man, that's fake too. So these extreme situations that they use to invalidate combat sport athletes are stupid. Because no one can survive a situation like that except if you're lucky. If you did by chance heard something or you suspect something. But that is not, again, something that you train for to read. You have to be lucky enough that the guy gives himself off. Right? If the guy does everything right and don't make a sound, you're never going to know that. Okay? So whether you can discover someone wants to throw a brick behind your head on the street is more luck-based than training-based. Okay? There's no training that can tell you you're going to be, never mind 100%, that you will be 90% able to read someone when they're throwing a brick behind your back. It just doesn't work like that. So, what reading social cue are sort of important. It doesn't work on criminals, and the one that it works on, you should already know. If you don't know how to read when somebody's upset with you, you may need to look into your failure as a social life rather than self-defense training. Now, next from this, we'll look at situational awareness. Again, I'm not saying situational awareness is not important, but much like reading social cue, you simply, either it is already common sense or it's something that you cannot train. Okay? Now, there are basic stuff like, when you drive at night, you look at your back mirror to see that no car is tailing you. Walk on the street at night, you make sure that no one's following you. When you turn a corner that you think is a dangerous place, you don't, if every is a corner, you don't want to turn around that close. You want to, have a bit of a distance. If somebody's, standing behind in the corner, you can tell. And have some distance to react. These are common sense, okay? These are things that you should learn through social skill. Your parents should tell you some of them. Your friends should tell you some of them. You should pick some of them up while growing up. It's not something that is a specialized course that you need to learn. And again, the special things are social, environmental or situational awareness that law enforcement officers have. I would argue that either they are not really applicable to you, or you can't exactly learn them. Okay, if you ask a very honest law enforcement officer who isn't trying to make money by teaching self-defense courses, he will probably tell you that when they feel something is wrong, it's a hunch, right? It's a feeling. It's because they've been doing this job for 10 years. They accumulate a kind of sense that something is off. It is not a quantifiable, logical deduction. They can't teach that to you. If you also do that kind of job every day, dealing with criminal, putting your life in the line against violence, you will also develop that kind of sense. But you can't teach someone that through drills. Okay? Each situation is just like each fight. It's different. You can't have a drill against every situation that you are likely to face. So thinking that you can go through situational drills, like when a guy marks you from here, when you're here, the guy marks you from there, thinking that you can learn situational awareness by doing these drills is just as impractical as trying to say that you can learn how to fight by learning a counter to each move, okay? Which doesn't work, I've explained in my previous videos. So that's like having a specific key for every problem you might encounter. You simply can't hold that many keys in your head for it to be efficient. For one situation drill to work, you have to drill at least 100 times. How are you going to have the time to drill over 1,000 different possibilities? You can't. So instead of trying to do that, I would argue, get the master key. And what's the master key? Be a superior fighter, okay? Besides the common sense situational awareness, simply be the better fighter. So if someone do jump you, you're confident you're going to drop his ass rather than get killed or beaten to a pulp. So rather chase something that is unattainable unless you work in that field for over years and years of accumulation. Focus on something that you can attain. Anything you want to add on situation?